this is random, but before we get started, but have you guys seen that new-ish, I don't know how new it is, but that Smurfs game?
Yeah, that looks really good. What the fuck?
Yeah. Somebody posted, they were like, why does this game look so good? They were just like running through the town, and then the next clip, they were like, and the game is like basically like Super Mario Sunshine.
Let's
like you
go.
basically have like a flood-esque mechanic that you're like, jetpacking around and blasting stuff. I was like, this game looks sweet. And that was on Switch, apparently, that clip. Like, I could be wrong, but the way that it was pitched was like, I got it on the eShop, and like, I feel like people say eShop when they're talking about Switch specifically.
Yeah.
I know they're all technically eShops, but
Another spiritual GameCube game.
yeah, I kind of want to check it out.
Like the gameplay like looked good enough that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that.
Why not?
And the music was great too. Like I was like, oh, like the vibe, like it almost had like kind of like the Donkey Kong Country kind of like, those like tribal bongos and stuff going on. Like it was sweet.
Hell yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games, because I guess that's what we do, guys.
That is what we do.
So, yeah, let's get right into it. And I guess we'll start off with some mobile games. I guess I talked about Jump Jerboa not too long ago on the podcast on one of the Save It for the Cast episodes. So let's, I guess we keep the mobile train rolling a little bit. We don't do too much mobile game talk on the podcast here, but Wordle has been popping up everywhere on the internet. And it's actually funny. I actually originally thought it was some kind of pixel art trend because I remember the developer. I think I've talked about the game Emuram on the podcast. If not, it's an awesome game, but I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it at least in passing.
You had to have. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's I've been hyping it up, and like a very anticipated game for me. Just really awesome, non-violent Metroidvania. Shit, I just lost my train of thought about that. What I was gonna say.
Oh, you thought it was like pixel art because you.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the developer of Emuram was posting like a little while back, like they have like a bunch of creatures in the game. It's like a non-violent exploration game.
Yeah.
And like they were posting like these creatures like made out of like kind of pixel art, but they would use those square emojis and like post like, oh, here's a little worm and here's a little whatever. And they looked very similar to how these Wordle like grids that you get a breakdown of at the end of like your attempt for the day. It's like a daily word puzzle that you get. A 5-letter word is like chosen at random, I think, at the start of each day, and it's the same word for everyone. It's a web-based. It's not even an app or anything, right? It's just like a web-based website.
That's how I use it.
Some dude like made it for their partner. Like was really into word games and was like, hey, I can program this into a website really easy. And then like after people like found out about it, then he added a little part that you could share your results, which did just print it out because it's 30 blocks and like the colors are based off if you have night mode or day mode on your phone. So it's
interesting.
A white or a black block if you have a letter that's not in the word, a yellow block if the letter is correct but it's in the wrong spot, or a green if it's a correct letter in the correct spot. And actually, have you guys ever played the board game Mastermind?
No, but somebody else mentioned it. I was talking about this game in a different Discord earlier, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's kind of like Wheel of Fortune," which is definitely like what I first thought of as well. But somebody else was like, "Oh, it's kind of more like Mastermind." Actually,
yeah,
but I had never heard of it.
Because Mastermind is literally the same thing, but instead of letters, it's colors. So like you're putting in, I think it might be 6 pegs, like colored pegs that one person will put in, like they have a little shield over their end, so the other person can't see it, and the other person then arranges the pegs that in any order, and then the other person, the person who had the answer combination on their end would then put in like, oh yeah, a black peg if this is an incorrect color, a white peg or if it's like correct. Basically the same thing as Wordle, but Wordle uses actual words instead of just random like color combinations.
Yeah, I even thought like Battleship with letters or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like Solitaire Battleship with letters.
Yeah.
And like, I love that it's just 6 guesses and it's so quick and you can only do one a day. Like it's locked.
Yeah.
And like the thing that I don't, now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, like you can't just continuously play it. Like there's just one word. And like the funny thing is like, because it was, not made for like, he never intended to sell it or like monetize it or turn this into like something that he was making money. He literally just did it as a like one-off project for like his partner. And like,
So cool.
Someone did some digging and found out that all of the like words are pre-chosen and are just in like a table array in the code for it.
Oh, really?
And people were like super upset that it wasn't randomized or like what. But at the same,
that's even better. Like I feel like hey, he like they went through and like picked all the words that they wanted to pick and plugged them in, even if they did just copy and paste from some master list of 5-letter words or something. But still, it's like I don't know, it's handcrafted.
Yeah, and someone like in response to like people being upset that it was like that. Oh, like the answers are all there. Is like you can buy a book of crosswords and that'll have all the answers there too. Like you just don't check.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like you can kind of set restrictions on yourself. Like could I sit there and like I think we might have even talked about this with like I can't remember why Words with Friends would have come up on the podcast before, but I think
Battle
it may
Royale,
have.
baby.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and but I think like at a point in time, like you would just kind of try to get like you wouldn't even be you would just be like, is this a word?
Yeah,
let me try it. It'll give me the most points. Let me see it. Let me see if X or you're just like I'm just gonna put XI anywhere I can. Let me get my Z. It's just like I'm not really like where Wordle feels like a true kind of brain exercise. Like you do feel like you can game it a little bit. Like I did for the word today. It was on the day that we're recording. It was banal was the word.
Yeah,
and I was like for some reason that wasn't like popping into my head, and I tried like banal, and I was like I know it's not a word, but I was like I can't think of anything that like would have these other letters like of the letters that I had already guessed. I was like what the hell? Like you really get, or at least I really get into like a brain fart mode. Like I even when I'm on like my second guess, I'm just staring at it.
Yes. Oh God.
I'm like, what word has an L in it? And I'm just like, there's a million of them. And I don't know if it's just because there's so many that I can't.
Yeah, I got the second A and the N in a wrong place on like my first guess, and I was like, "Well, what the fuck word is that?" And that's like I just stared at it for like 30 minutes, which was great. Like it's a great distraction.
It's truly a mental exercise. Like, it's a good like I do just stare at my phone and get kind of sucked into it for the however long I'm doing it for. And it's a good kind of morning. I've only done like 3 of them, but it's not like, oh, let me keep being addicted to this. It's just like, oh, that's kind of just a little morning exercise that I'll do for however long until I get sick of it. I'm sure I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm hooked on it where it's like, this is going to be my everyday, religion. But
I think it's funny that we all kind of had a similar experience, especially, today too. But I did like look at our Discord a little bit, and you guys said that ocean was like a good starting word. I'm like, yeah, I totally see that. You get all the vowels in there.
I saw that on Twitter. Somebody was like, ocean is an OP starting word. And I was like, that definitely.
I go with the consonant slurs. Like when I think I did like strap. For one of them because you get the STR.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
There's
somebody else in the Discord said reads, I think, which is pretty good. You get the ER, the ED, and the S. So like if anything's pluralized or has any like tense to it, I feel like you cover a lot of bases there maybe, but I don't know.
It's that Wheel of Fortune, that RLSTNE, like final round. You got to get it.
all that daytime TV watching paying off when I stayed home sick from school. But no, it's a fun little game, and it's got such a slick. I think I've mentioned this probably a million times too. Whenever we talk about like any game that runs on like a web platform or whatever, but the fact that I'm just playing this on my phone and like the little just smooth like tile flipping animations, like everything just runs so slick and smooth, and it's just so minimal and
it's super.
I don't know, it's just really clean and nice and
like they
well
don't show you. There's no instructions telling you that green means this and yellow means this when you start early, or if there was, I totally missed it. So then
it's very intuitive.
I just pulled it open and I'm like, oh, okay, it must mean that like yellow means it's in the word. But it took me a second to figure that out. But then I did. Like, it didn't have to explicitly tell me that. So that's like, it's just good design. That
super
way.
elegant.
Yeah.
That's the perfect word for it. Yeah, it's just an elegant, like clean, no extra frills, and I love that it keeps track of your stats. Like, even though again you're just playing in a browser, like with whatever cookies or IP address or whatever, it like keeps track. So I've only done 3 of them so far, but I'm 3 for 3, and I will say I saw the Ocean tweet was what actually like pulled me into the game. Like somebody said Ocean's an OP starting word, and I was like, you know what? I keep seeing this Wordle thing all around, and I was like kind of resisting a little bit, like just like okay, it's like kind of the what is this viral thing that's like kind of annoying that I keep seeing on Twitter, and then it's like, oh, it's actually kind of fun. I don't have to be so cynical about it.
Twitter is cynical.
Yeah,
it really is. Like, and especially when you just see like some random trend popping up, and you're just like, why do people keep posting these blocks nonstop? And especially when it wasn't the cool like little EmuROM creatures that I thought it could be. I was like, I thought people were like posting stuff like, guess what this is? Like, guess what I'm trying? Like almost like Pictionary,
right?
But yeah, definitely not the case. But I don't know. Anybody have any more thoughts on Wordle before we move over to Randall's latest acquisition in the retro department?
Take it away, Randall.
All right, I will take it away.
Nice.
So, I will talk about that first. So, I've mentioned this prior, but I was able to order the Analogue Pocket. I caught the 10-minute window. And by caught, I meant I set an alarm to make sure I got up early enough that I could purchase it as frantically as possible, along with the dock and the Game Gear adapter and the screen protector, of course, because that's very sensible. You have to protect this thing.
100%,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you got all that stuff. Like, there's not like a long waiting period. Like, John's waiting for his N64 controllers to come back in stock. Geez. Like, you got the whole package at once.
Yeah. It might be waiting as long as the other people that are trying to order an Analogue Pocket now are, to be honest, for another N64 Switch controller.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the state of things with hardware in particular these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got that. I can't say I've been able to spend a ton of time with it lately. We've had folks visiting and busy job stuff, but I like it. It feels really solid, I'll say. It's like a little bit heavier than I expected, but in like a solid, like well-built kind of way. But the thing
plastic,
that really,
though, right?
I think so. Yeah, I guess I haven't really looked too much into that, but if it is a plastic, it's like a very like feels good, solid plastic, like well made.
On a scale of like a Game Boy to a Switch, like how heavy is it?
I would say it's closer to like a Game Boy with batteries in it. As far as a heft, with like 4 AA's type of like heft to it.
Like the
and
OG
that's nice,
size.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I like that. Like, I mean, when like there is something, I don't know why a heft to something makes it feel like it's better quality, but it does to me at least.
Yeah,
it's like this is more substantial. It's like there's more. This is worth more money. It's like they built this thing nicer,
and it has the Game Boy layout, that original Game Boy or Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket type of layout to it. Although it's got the 2 extra face buttons, so it's got the diamond Super Nintendo face button shape. Plus start, select, and an analog menu button, which is very nice because there's like a whole, like all analog products, there's this whole, OS menu essentially where you can tweak all the video settings, audio settings to your heart's content stuff, and easily updated by firmware via the micro SD card. So they're always updating it. There's no jailbreak yet, which there is for all the other analog things, which I was a little reticent to talk about it this early because I know there will be one at some point. So this is still very early impressions. I'll probably talk about it again when that happens because that'll open up the floodgates, to be honest.
Please do,
of what this thing can do. But even as it is now, where it's it's just the thing that it could play Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then with the adapter I got Game Gear games. And then there are future adapters for Atari Lynx support, and Neo Geo Pocket Color support.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
I did not know that. I did not know they were... Like, it's already pretty cool that they're because with Game Boy, you're talking about you can either get like Game Boy and Game Boy Color combined, or Game Boy and I guess Game Boy Advance systems could play the Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. So never mind. I was going to say there weren't any that could play all 3 of those, but I take that back.
and I will say too, like, it's most impressive, honestly, playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color games as well as Game Gear, just because they really made the resolution just kind of that traditional 4:3 aspect, that square aspect ratio, So,
Yeah.
but it's a big screen, man. It's just such an impressive looking screen when you look at it in person. It's kind of every time I've turned it on early on, I've been like, holy moly, like. I can't play regular Game Boy games the same way unless I'm going to play on TV, which that dock can do. Like, that's the method to do it.
I'm just looking at it with all of the like synth and music, like audio stuff that you could also do. Like, this is
built in,
unbelievable, man.
Nano loop stuff. Yeah,
God,
I haven't even
really
touched
cool.
that stuff.
This
Which I know you would have
bonkers.
probably jumped into first if you had one of these already, John.
Yeah, John would probably figure
right
out a
up
way to
your
hook it
alley.
up into that synth rig in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah, you can hook it up to
LSDJ.
Absolutely.
Oh, the and
Do all
the
kinds of
that's
MIDI
so
stuff.
cool, and
The
it's
dock
it's such a
for
slick
putting
device,
it-
and I do know what you mean because I've seen like some of those screen, like it is that's like maybe my one, not owning one, but that's like the one gripe is like, the Game Boy Advance games will like get a little shrunk on that screen, being that it's kind of built for that 4:3 ratio. But at the same time, I'm sure it's like when you're playing it, like you're playing on a handheld system, it's like you don't need that. You're not playing it for a huge screen, really. You're kind of playing it for the convenience and
and it feels effectively like the same. Like there's obviously the bars on the bottom and the top to make it the more widescreen Game Boy Advance aspect ratio. But effectively, it's the same screen size as you would get on Game Boy Advance or SP. But it's not quite. Like, I have an SP 101, so like that part of it was like, oh, this is cool because you can effectively clamshell, quote unquote, by you hit the power button lightly, it puts it into sleep mode, and you could come back to the game, which is a quality of life benefit that you can't do with any of the actual Game Boy Advance systems necessarily.
Yep.
So there's things like that too. But yeah, and I got to play it on the TV because I actually went forward and did what I said I was going to do as a part of my resolution for in the holiday episode, which was an impetus for me to hook up my whole game setup downstairs, including my retro stuff, but it also included this dock because it happened to show up, and that was like the final catalyst to be like, okay, let's go. Everything needs to get hooked up. I need to try this out. I don't just want to jerry rig or take an HDMI cable from something else, and then that whole thing we all do when we're being lazy. I'm like, no, set this all up properly. You have all this stuff. It's all in the closet. You already bought this stuff. Just do it. So I did it. So I have also already started Panzer Dragoon Saga. I'll say that much.
Nice. I was actually digging into not my resolution game, but John's resolution game recently. But
I didn't want to say it, but I have two, and I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to rush John.
Yeah, there's no rush. I literally waited until we had to juggle the order of our episodes to get my.
What if we knock it out
in,
before January's done? What if we?
I was just like, I had
for once.
I can't remember. Oh, you know what? I was streaming. I was just like playing on Switch. Like I started playing some Tori 2, and then Arpy jumped in, and then Sir Milkman jumped in, and I was like, oh, anything you guys want me to play? And he was like, Milkman was like, play Dicey Dungeons. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I am loving it so far. That's all I'll say for now.
Spoilers.
I don't want to spoil it. I will not spoil it. This is John's game.
Okay, all right, I'll get in it.
I literally stopped myself from playing more and I'm like, just play other things right now. Right?
I have also done this. I was like, okay, I've only played a couple runs, and I was like, yeah, I can play other stuff. I'll come back to this. Okay.
But that's all I've got to say about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and great to hear that the Analogue Pocket is like living up to its reputation, not only in like the analog name, but like I feel like the buzz around the thing has just been like nothing but great things. And even in a photo, that screen pops. So it's great to hear that in person it pops even more.
I think it's well worth it.
So what controller are you using when you have it docked?
Yeah, so it actually the dock has a built-in Bluetooth and not IR, RF. Like so, it's you could do either the 2.4 gigahertz signal or the Bluetooth signal to connect things. And I've been using 8-bit DOE. I've got like an 8-bit DOE SNES controller, and it paired no problem.
Nice. That's awesome.
And you can pair up to 4 controllers with it, which is even more awesome, I think.
That's really cool. Yeah. Even the fact I didn't know that like the Analogue Pocket was kind of like I wanted one already, but I was kind of like, it'll be a thing that I get down the road, even though those analog systems do tend to go out of stock and maybe never come back in stock, like if they stop producing them. Although I could see this one having a long run or whatever.
Yeah, but, I think this is they're going to be their primary product for a while here.
It seems kind of like a flagship product in some kind of way, yeah.
Yep. And the other thing I'll say too is you can plug in wired USB controllers to this thing too. It doesn't have to be wireless. So I actually was playing a little bit of Donkey Kong 94 with an arcade stick by USB. Like you can do all kinds of stuff. So
that's really cool. Yeah. How substantial is the dock? Like, because what I was initially picturing was, is it like a little iPod dock essentially? Like that's what I'm kind of picturing. Like just like you pop it on the thing and like plug it in.
Yep.
Nice.
Very, very, very Apple design that way. Just very small, very elegant.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to get one of those things.
Yes.
But I guess I'll move on to what I've been playing. And I wasn't sure which one I'm going to start off with, but I'm going to do a little podcast inception for you guys, since we got another game that we've had a handful of like guests and folks that are kind of somewhat associated with the podcast put out a game here, and we've had our pal Dev Dwarf on the podcast. We've had our pal Lumoth, was actually the first interview we ever had on the podcast, and then our pal HIS. I never know what to call him, but HIS. TinyBox11 on Twitter did the pixel art, like our Pelican and Frog pixel art banner and stuff, and the three of them, and then their other pal Nick Muse, who we'll have to make friends with you, Nick. But at some point, or they just put out their new game FEWAR-DVD, which is actually an anagram. Is that the right word? Anagram of Dev Dwarf's namesake or whatever.
Oh, geez.
Which I didn't realize until DJ pointed it out to me. But FEWAR-DVD was actually a game that I'm pretty sure I talked about Leanthus on the podcast a long time ago from Dev Dwarf. A number of times I'm sure I've mentioned it. But FEWAR-DVD he decided to make in like, it was either over a week or over the course of like a weekend, or he entered a game jam. Like he was just like, I'm just going to make this game solo. And it was like this arcadey roguelike, like mouse controlled game. But it was like kind of just arcadey and high score. And he's actually been kind of like DMing me every once in a while. Like, hey, I'm working on this on the side, like a full version of this game. And he's like tease me with little clips here and there. And again, like obviously knowing who like the pedigree of, the folks that this is coming from, I'm big fans of all their stuff. So the fact that they're working on like a new version of this game, I would, couldn't wait for it. And it's finally here, and it has controller support, because the original game, it was actually played only with the mouse, and you kind of like, it's like a top down game where like you have this heart that you kind of just zigzag through these procedurally generated mazes, and in the new game there's like a bunch of different zones. In the original game it was like all these like every zone was just these swords, and you were just basically trying to get as far as you could and collect treasure, and then there's like a portal exit on each level where you have to like collect a key, and once you get the key you can bust that open. But the new version of the game adds like, not only the original version didn't have any music, it was all kind of like a soundscape, sound effects, but now you got Lumoth on the tunes, and they are slamming. Like the music is so good, and like very like every zone kind of has its own tune, and it very much shifts. Like sometimes it's a big shift in vibes, sometimes it's like kind of like just a shift in like it's kind of the same song, but like the mood kind of tones down and like some of the percussion gets pulled out or something, like just the way it's like put together, and it's like this super trippy, it's a little bit of like a visual onslaught and a little bit of an audio onslaught as well. I mean, it's really like if you have any kind of like if you can't play games like any audio visual sensory issues, I would not recommend this game.
It seems a little like 90s like Tood throwback a little bit from like FMV type of stuff a little bit with some of the things they got going on, like just a little bit of the Tood that it's got just kind of reminds me of some of that like influence wise.
Yeah, like, well, even when you like die and stuff, like after you're like when you get a game over or whatever, it's like if you get killed by like a sword, it's like, oh, you got slashed by the sword, sucker. So it doesn't say sucker, but it kind of has that like Tood. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah,
and it just like. Yeah, it's just kind of like off the wall. It's really cool. Like a lot of the power ups, I'm not actually going to say what they do because they have just like weird names, kind of like FEWAR-DVD. You're just like, what the heck does this mean? What am I playing? What does this do? But it'll be like kind of based off like a real word, but it'll just have like some, I don't know, like maybe they're real words
they're all
in like
anagrams.
Latin. or maybe they're in Latin or something. Yeah, they could be anagrams. Yeah. But like, no, some of them I think are just like sword, but like, yeah, one of the power ups is like you just get like this sword, on,
which
like,
is an anagram for words.
Ooh.
throwing it back. Wrong game. But yeah, the sword really comes in handy. Like, again, in the initial game, you're really just trying to dodge, and that's all. You like dodge, collect as much treasure as you can, and whatever, and that's it. Now you get power ups that are like you have a sword, so you can like kind of attack some of the enemies, and like. Even though you can like get all these power-ups that like protect you and shield you, and you can go on the offensive and like take less damage, and you can take 5 damage points, I think it's either 4 or 5, but like per zone, every time you get to a new zone, you replenish back to full health. Like everything resets, even like your buffs and power-ups. Like if they get used up on one stage, not even on a zone, there's 3 stages per zone. Like the next stage, your shield will regenerate, and still I cannot get past the 5th zone. And I don't know how many zones there are, but I definitely know there are more than that based on like the achievement list that they have in the game.
Sure.
But I know DevDwarf said like the next patch they were talking about adding in a leaderboard, online leaderboard for high scores and stuff. And I do think like in the achievements it said there was like an endless mode. So it's all super cryptic, so it doesn't say mode or anything, but it just says endless with a question mark. So I'm assuming there's some kind of endless version, or maybe it like keeps looping, in roguelike fashion or whatever. But I'm really, really loving the game. It's like I've basically just been bouncing between this game and the other game I'm going to talk about in a second. That are both kind of just kicking my ass, and for some reason I'm just loving that feeling. So yeah, FEWAR-DVD, I really can't recommend enough. It's only $5 too. DevDwarf was kind enough, like, since he's like, oh, your friends, we've been chatting for a long time, so he sent us a copy to our Steam account. So very grateful for that. But it's definitely one that I plan on like gifting to other people. Yeah, if, basically anytime I was gonna say anytime it goes on sale, but it's already only $5. So
yeah, I'm like gonna just pick it up for my own account like after this call.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool game, and it's all the like, it's just got every little touch is just so, I don't know, it's got a lot of juice. It's really something special, I think. And yeah, the other game I've been playing, I'm just going to talk about this one real quick, even though it has a ton of stuff going on. But I've been playing Scavenger of Dunomini from, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but from, it's the newest game from PUNKCAKE, PUNKCAKE Delicio, that is. And I know I talk about their games ad nauseum at this point, and I just talked about them on the holiday episode of the podcast too. And I honestly wasn't planning on talking about this game. I was like, I've talked about PUNKCAKE to death. Like, you get it. If you listen to the podcast,
it's a good game, talk about it.
No doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
How many Nintendo games have we talked about?
Yeah, good lord.
Right. But I guess I just sometimes feel like, I want to dig up some more indie gems. But it just, these guys, they took the month of November off to kind of set up some Steam stuff and do some various things on like the back end. And then they, released this game right kind of before the end of the year, right before Christmas. And I've been playing it ever since. And I kind of initially, even when they were first like showing like the or like the little GIFs of like gameplay, I was kind of like, I don't know if this one's going to be for me. I was kind of not so sure about it, but it's basically if you can imagine a combination of Wario's Woods meets Wilmot's Warehouse, and then add in a layer of tower defense on top of that. And on top of that, it's also like it's set on one of the planets that was in their previous game, Spectrum Forces. So like this little droid spider bot that you control in the game is like, and then the enemy droids that are coming to try to like steal the trash from you is like, those are actually some of the enemies that you like are shooting in Spectrum Forces as you're like zipping through and blasting away enemies and that shmup. But this game is like, it's basically a match 3 puzzler. Well, most of the time it's match 4, but then you start the game, there's 3 different like resources. There's plastic, copper, and steel, and you have to line them up 4 in a row to then, once you like line them up 4 in a row, you basically like gather those resources, and then you can start crafting things like ammo and auto turrets and energy sources. And then like once you start getting past a certain point, I don't know if it's like based on score or based on like waves of like enemies that start coming by or start coming in, because the enemies, like, they're basically the same as you, but they do have like different classes essentially of enemies, but they'll like come in and try to steal your ammo and steal your crates and steal your trash or whatever. And you can take damage points by either taking damage, like they'll shoot bullets at you, so you have to like dodge these bullets, which is not super frequent. Like if you have your defenses set up, they might not even shoot anything at you.
Right.
But you have to dodge. You have 3 hit points. You have to dodge everything that that they might shoot at you. You also have to make sure that your trash pile doesn't stick or doesn't like grow too high, and there's like a smelting like laser that like if any trash gets smelted, you take damage from that. And then also if any of the like droid bots steal any trash from you and take it back to their base, you also take damage from that.
Oh, that's
so
God.
it's just like
That's
it is
sweet.
like nonstop. And then so the thing that they do is like
That's
at
very
first it's
competitive
like okay.
puzzler.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of competitive puzzler, there's actually a co-op 2-player mode and a 2-player versus mode. So yeah, that's something I really am desperate to try out on both ends. I do think the co-op would maybe get a little too chaotic because then you get into after those 3 resources are in play, they start throwing batteries into the mix, but those are actually, you have to match 3 of those, but you have to match them on a diagonal. And then they start throwing like CPU chips into the mix, and then they start throwing like these other, they're like memory chips, and you have to connect at least 3 of those together, the CPU chips with a memory chip, and then like they throw these gears into the mix that you have to match 5 of those together. At least 5 of those together have to be connected, but also have to be touching a power source. But then also on top of that, you can like dig deeper into this pit that the puzzle pieces are falling into. Like you can build and craft like a centrifuge and then power that, and it digs
Holy
deeper.
moly.
It's like, it is the craziest game. And it seems like my highest score is like 600 something. And like some of the people in the PUNKCAKE Discord are getting like 2,000, 3,000 points. And apparently the game almost like breaks at that point. Like the bots like don't know what to do. And they just start like, they're in like a constant state of aggro. But yeah, like at first I didn't realize that you could like craft like heart containers. You can craft like power-ups and buffs. Like it is the coolest. Like I was playing a stream of it the other day, and RP, not to just keep bringing him up for like the 10th time on this episode here, but like he jumped in the stream and he was like, I think he like, there's a great like example. He's like, this just kind of seems like one of those like dad games where like this is like the one game that your dad plays that like this is like they're just like addicted to this game and they're like a master at it. But it's the only game that they play. And I was like, I can
not your dad's Tetris.
totally see that. Because I'm sort of, other than the fact that I'm not a dad, and I guess the fact that I'm also playing FEWAR-DVD, this game is like, I don't know, it's grabbed a hold of me in a way that, like, again, I kind of didn't like it at first. Like, I was kind of like, almost like, just kind of like, I guess I didn't like this PUNKCAKE one that much, you know. I was like, or it wasn't for me, you know, or it's, and it is almost like a little too hard, I would say.
Yeah,
but
it does
at the same
sound
time,
overwhelming. But like it didn't look overwhelming when like I watched you like play like when batteries were first introduced, and I was like, okay, I get this. So like, yeah, I don't think it overwhelms you, but just hearing you describe it, like,
yeah, well, I guess too, it's like because there isn't like a proper like tutorial per se.
Right.
That's like you do have to kind of trial and error a lot of things, but then once you kind of get a decent like tower defense setup that like can at least buy you time for the first 3 waves, then you can like experiment a little more like that. I wasn't crafting any of those capsules at first because like it said like you have to line 3 of them up to like make a capsule level 2, but it like each capsule is like its own individual power up once it's crafted. So it's like you just have to like put it somewhere out of the way basically. Like you even have like a little carved out section that you can like off to the right, like a little area that you can kind of put stuff off to. That's it. At least that's what I've been using it for.
Yeah.
But yeah, people were like giving tips in the PUNKCAKE Discord too. Like make sure you carve out like almost like a little stair step so that you can like set up the batteries on like a diagonal like, automatically. Like it's, oh man, this game is amazing. Like I went
cool,
from being like,
does.
this game is maybe okay to being like, this is one of my favorite games I've played in a long time, and I don't see stopping anytime soon, especially if I can like get a versus mode in or something like that. But
man,
yeah, I've done enough gushing here. But yeah, PUNKCAKE Patreon, they have a Patreon. I'm subscribed. It's $4 a month for these games, and they crank them out. Obviously they just didn't charge for November, you know, when they didn't put one out, but they already posted like, here's to 12 more PUNKCAKEs in 2022. So
it's just
I'm
insane.
ready for it. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm ready for it. But yeah, why don't we toss the ball over to John, who's still living in the free to play world a little bit.
Oh my God, I don't even remember why, but I downloaded Destiny 2 like I guess a month ago maybe, It was a while back. I've been playing Destiny 2 for a while with zero. There wasn't even a reason. I think I was just like, I want to play a different game. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I started playing Destiny 2?
Yeah, I don't see you as much of an FPS guy.
I'm super not. Like, I have my very, like, niche, like, FPS titles that I play like over and over and over again, and those are the only ones I ever play. And it turns out Destiny 2 is literally that specific genre of just hyper mobile, like so much customization, but like the free to play model, which I know it wasn't before, so I can't like comment on what the Destiny 2 was before they made the move to free to play, but like it jumped on that seasons like model that so many other like games are going on. And it's I don't know. I just finished the like holiday or winter season event ended recently. And that kind of freed me from my compulsion of logging in every day and doing the daily challenges and like getting certain kills on with like certain like different guns. And it's I enjoy it a lot, but at the same time, like when I'm playing it, I'm kind of dreading like interacting with all of like I need to talk to this NPC to get today's bounties so that I can unlock the experience, and like as I'm doing that will allow me to play the game that I like but not make me feel like I'm wasting my time. It's like, I need to be doing I every day I only get X amount of bounties that I can get that will give me experience, so I need to be doing that. And like this just kind of sucks. Like, I really like the game. I think the game is like really fun to play. I really like the mechanics of it.
Yeah, I've heard it's really well crafted.
Yeah, it's incredible. And there's hundreds of guns. So like, there's so many, like I've basically found my loadout, not quickly. I think it took me like, trying out a bunch of different types of weapons and like seeing how they played off on various situations, but like I found basically my setup, and I don't know, like I've maxed out the level that they can be at, and I've like upgraded them as much as I can, and I'm like, I don't really feel the compulsion. Oh god, I did play a PvP match and just was absolute dog shit at it. Like but worst player by far on my team. Like it was just an embarrassing display.
Right,
and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't really want to do the grind that I need to do in order to be really good at an FPS. It's just not going to happen. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not really good at them. But
PS4 or PC, by the way, are you doing controller? Or are you doing
PS4 controller on PC?
Sure. Nice. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. I just like controller like on for FPSs more than mouse and keyboard.
Yeah,
but that's a personal preference.
Yeah,
but like I really like the raid system where it's the co-op that here's a horde of enemies and you're just playing with random people, and it's kind of open world in that respect. So it's like it's also like, I don't know, maybe this is just my own preconceived expectations for the game, but it's a lot goofier than I thought it was. And like,
I wonder if part of that, like, I wonder if any of the goofiness came from the like free to play.
Maybe like it definitely feels like that could have been like part of it is like, oh, you need to have like, here's your antlers on your like helmet that you got from the holiday, like here's your like motorbike that is made out of icicles. Like,
like it almost feels like everybody, or not everybody, but like a lot of games kind of like saw Fortnite taking off and like, hey, every Fortnite character looks like it makes no fucking sense. Like it has a zebra head and a party hat and a squirt gun. It's like, what the hell is this game? And then like everyone's like, oh, you just put anything. You don't need any aesthetics. You just throw anything together and it works.
What the hell is anything?
Yeah. And like I have also just not engaged with the story at all. And like I know that there's like a rich background and lore.
I think people get into it. I want to say Rami Ishmael is like super into it from Vlambeer. Like I want to say they like would post like screenshots all the time and like just get super hype for the new Destiny 2 launches and DLCs and stuff.
But like that does not resonate with me at all. And like I enjoy playing it and I'll log in, but like I really wish, like, honestly, that it was just kind of like a standalone non-online game that had, you know, a campaign that was, I don't know, like
you wish it was Genshin. I wish it was Genshin.
But honestly, like Genshin just had a new update and it has a new story, and like I don't even think the story in Genshin is like, you know, groundbreaking or like particularly like a selling point on that game, but like it's good. I enjoy it
enough to
and
drive the
and I much prefer how they and that is I think kind of a like a split between like how like different free to play or seasonal games approach story, is that they can either be like, well, you either in like Genshin, he's like, you can play through every single story beat and that'll take you like a month or two to get caught up to where everyone else is, but you have to do it. Or you can just be dropped in the middle of it and have zero context and be like, all right, I have no idea why I'm doing anything, but the game's fun. And like that's kind of where, so like, I don't know. I want, basically what I want is I don't want free to play games and I don't want seasonal games. Like, I don't
it's
really
funny
like
you
the
say
model,
that because
that model has overtaken games in a lot of ways.
And I'll even say, like, ever since Rocket League went that model, I haven't played as much, and that's not like any. I didn't think about that being any reason tied to it. You know, there's no particular reason really, but like I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Just kind of like all that extra in your face, like loot boxes and this and that. Like you can kind of ignore it, but it's like
it's predatory.
Now that it's more prominent in the game, it's like it's just kind of
it like needs you to log in every day. Like that's how the beast gets fed, and it's I don't know. I find myself like playing Destiny 2 and being like, I just wish this was Destiny 2, but on like Doom 2016. Like I just wish I could have, instead of 1,000 guns, just have like 12.
The campaign.
I just but that's again, it's a personal preference. It's just what I prefer, and you know, I don't know.
We all have that preference, I think.
I mean, apart from like, I love procedurally generated like randomness,
totally,
from that aspect of things. But I'm always going to lean towards like a handcrafted or like something that has its scope reined in from the get go, as opposed to something that's just kind of a beast that you're just kind of trying to tame at all times. Even though I think there is potential, like again, it sounds like you've had a blast playing Genshin and stuff like that. Like it's not like
I've loved playing Destiny 2. It's a great game, but like I just wish
I'd rather it just be the
different
game. Yeah, I'd rather just be the game that it was maybe initially intended to be before they decided to go with this model or something. Because the first game or the second game wasn't that way from at launch. So
a game that's not just driven by user engagement by day, you know.
It's like those games, like it's like they're like actively reminding you that you're just a cog in the machine, kind of, you know.
You better log in every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to get the MacGuffin, don't you? Today's MacGuffin?
The servers are overloaded because we invited everyone in. So I guess we did what we meant to do, but.
But also you missed today's MacGuffin, so you lose the weekly or monthly bonus. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like that disconnect of caring like really frees you, because once I was like, oh, like every single random version, you can get multiples of the same gun and they all have like slightly different stats, so you need to like constantly be trying to get the one that has the most optimized. I'm like, no, fuck that.
Min-max it.
Nope, I'm getting whatever I get is the one I got, and I'm getting rid of anyone else, and I'm not even looking at it.
Don't even tempt yourself. But
it's a fun game. Hey, it's free. If you got if you got a machine that can play it, fun as hell game.
It is interesting because there always is like the other part of me that like wants to be like, oh, but it is cool for like younger kids who maybe like, you know, when I would like, save up my allowance and get my couple games a year or whatever that I would get as a kid. Like, how cool is it that kids can just like, if as long as they have a decent computer or even mobile on their phone or something, in a lot of cases, like, I don't know about Destiny, but I know you can play Fortnite and stuff on your phone, but like, I think that's a big reason these games have blown up, because anybody can play them. But it's just like knowing that like there's some aspect of the behind the scenes that's like, how can we? I don't think they're actively saying how can we prey on people and make money, but there's some part of that.
They are by this point, I think.
There's a shareholder presentation that is absolutely with a little like profit chart. So.
Daily user engagements, revenue per user.
Yeah. And it's like, it could be such an exciting thing to have like a game that's like kind of live and living and like could change on the fly based on feedback from people. And I don't know, but it's wrapped up in the free to play model. It's just kind of,
But then you're also at the mercy of the player base, and how do you like, equitably compensate the people who are putting the time into development? Like, it's,
yeah.
What a great ecosystem we're in currently.
It's nice that we still have the option to buy, regular contained game experiences for now.
At least for now. As awesome as digital, going like digital distribution has been for getting more stuff out there, it's like, it's oversaturated things. And then, you throw these new free to play models into the mix, and it's like, man, how do you compete as like a little indie dev? But oh man! But anyways, on that sour note,
what a downer! God, sorry guys.
Oh man, good thing we could plug a little funny at the end, a little tag to lighten things up. But but I guess we could probably wrap up the games talk there this week, guys. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. I know I kind of waffle all the time. I'm like, we're not streaming anymore. We're kind of streaming again. I'm 2022. We're doing more live streaming, so we're going to be on Twitch a little more often. Today. We're on YouTube. We're pretty much everywhere on the internet if you just look up Pursuing Pixels. So that's pretty much it for this week, and we'll catch you next time. And until then, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Another ramble sesh at the end, but works for me.
Very contained ramble.
That was a fun little ending, actually. Oh man, I had all this like extra stuff too that I had written down. Like I was listening to that 30 for 30. I was just binging a bunch of those 30 for 30 podcasts today, and then I listened to one about. I skipped over it because I was just like, it was a Madden thing, and it was like, I know he just passed away recently.
Right? Yeah,
and then it was like, but I just thought it was going to be like about him, but it was actually an older episode, and it was about like the creation of like the Madden game.
Yeah, then, which like took off first on Genesis and stuff, and were huge even in those days.
Like, but apparently
games.
it was in development for like 4 years because Madden was just like, they kept like trying to put it on like PC or like, they kept like trying to develop it at EA.
Yeah.
And like Madden was just like, if it's not 11 on 11, we're not doing the game. Like he's like, if it's not exactly like real football, we're not doing the game. But it was pretty interesting. It was like they were talking about how like then players would start to like there was like some particular play, I guess, in real football where like a player like ran along like the goal line to run out the clock at the end of a game.
Yeah.
And they were like, he definitely like learned that from Madden. Like they're like, you do that in Madden, like that's and they're like, it's crazy how like the actual video game has like actually evolved. The actual sport, and even from a broadcasting perspective, like up until the first Madden game came out, like they didn't really have the microphones where they would like zoom in on it would just be kind of silent until they snapped the ball, and then they'd start announcing basically.
Yeah.
And then they like, after Madden, they're like, we got to get mics so you can hear like the hut hike and all that stuff. And like they actually based that off of like the game.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Although I will say Tecmo Bowl and Tecmo Super Bowl also had some of those sound effects, even
that's
on
true.
NES.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
They pioneered that too. But Madden perfected that to some, although 2K perfected that, and then the Madden got the NFL license exclusivity for a decade
talked about
plus.
that too. That was what they had that Mike Mika pop on for a quick sec.
Nice.
He was just like, they pretty much just like dropped a nuclear bomb. Like they were like, like studios had to close because they were working on NFL games.
I
and
was
then it was just
so
like,
disappointed.
we straight up can't make them now. Yeah, because I remember you being a big fan of 2K.
Like in
Series.
college, those games were coming out, and we played the shit out of both the college version, the NCAA, and the NFL 2K, ESPN 2K 4 and 5, and like
the
those
one with
games
TO
were
on the
awesome.
cover.
Yeah. Like, and the TO one was the last one they released in 2K5, and that game was fantastic. I still have a copy.